Okay, it is with great pleasure. Welcome back to the Florida Football Insiders podcast. We've got an awesome new contributor that's going to be joining the podcast this year, both the Florida Football Insiders and the Powers on Sports podcast. We're going to kind of simulcast this segment of the episodes each week. We're going to call this segment The Coach and the Kicker, and we are bringing in Coach Jim Leavitt, former USF head football coach, has been a defensive coordinator all over the country at several locations, has been a coach in the National Football League. Just a great career, storied career of 40-plus years in coaching. He took the University of South Florida to the number 2 team in the country in 2007. He's won over 90 games as a head football coach. Unbelievable, great record at USF. Again, he's coached all over the country. And again, we're going to talk to Coach about lots of different things in the coaching world. Decisions coaches make in-game, recruiting stuff, his career a little bit. But we're going to make this a great segment throughout the college football year. So welcome to the podcast, Coach Leavitt.
All right, Jason, let's go to work.
I hear you. Well, that's the theme of the episode. Obviously, your job as a coach has just started. All these coaches have been busting their butts all spring and all summer to get to this point. Some of the coaches started last Saturday. Most everybody starts this week. Just talk to the audience about the anticipation of going through all the spring drills, all the summer stuff, all the training camp practices to finally get to week one.
Well, you want to win your opener. I mean, I remember when I was the head coach in South Florida. I think, I don't know if we ever lost many openers. I don't know if we lost any. Sure we did. I think we lost Penn State up there when Paterno was there. But we won most all our openers, and we made a real we really focused on that. It's you want to come out well, and you want to come out winning that first game. But it's you never know how things are going to go because you practice so much, and you don't really have any film. That you got film from the year before. If they went to a bowl game, you have that film, but you don't have any film unless you want to try to be illegal and send somebody over there and watch practices. But that and back in the day, people did that. So they don't do it anymore. But they do. You'll call, like you might call a rival college that's close to the school you're playing, and just kind of ask them, what have you heard? Have you seen any of the practices? That still goes on. Trying to get as much information as you can. But like I said, Jason, you don't have any film. So you always tell your team you've got to be ready for things that they're going to do that we're not prepared for.
You got a couple interesting situations in the state of Florida. You got a couple new coaches, Miami and Florida. Their opponents, they don't know what they've done at those new schools. So how do you prepare against a guy who was at another school the previous year and is coming to a new place, and you're having to play them potentially week one?
Well, you find out who their offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator are. You make sure you find out where they were, because if they weren't at the school that you're going to play, you go back and you try to get as much film from where they were, at least the last 3 or 4 games on both sides, to do the best you can, thinking that, hey, they're going to probably run what they've done, especially if somebody has a resume and they've been in it for a while. But again, trying to gather as much information as you can. And then you look at your head coach, his background, and kind of what he's done, where he's been. You certainly can look at their personnel, because, and sometimes, like, it might be a quarterback that's a freshman, and you got to go back and you got to look at high school tape. Or junior college tape. And you'll show your players maybe highlights of what they do. Do they run? Do they run the option? Is it a quarterback that's going to, be a drop back guy? But, that's the most important position on a team. So you're going to find out as much information about the quarterback as you can.
So talk to me about you. I'm sure you've been in both of these positions as at USF and other places. You've kind of been the guy. You've been the team that the other team is expecting to beat in week one. And then you've been on the other side of it when you're playing somebody you expect to beat. How does the preparation vary when you're in a quote unquote tough game week one versus a team that you're supposed to beat week one?
Well, I never focus on winning or losing a game. I never talk to the players about you have to win this game or this. We all know we want to win. That's a byproduct. of the play.
Right.
To me, all the years I was at South Florida, I always told them to focus on one play at a time. We win enough plays, we'll win the game. If we don't, we won't. Take all the pressure off.
Yep.
Off the players. Go out there and just play. It's so important that they can. There's a fine line between getting ready and being too relaxed or too tight. You want them to be able to go out and play and do their thing. But I always focus on don't focus on winning a game. I focus on your play.
Is it easier? Is it easier for a guy like Billy Napier at Florida to know we got Utah, top 10 team coming to town, as opposed to if they were playing pick up school X that maybe wasn't very good or wasn't perceived to be very good? The focus in training camp of the attention to detail, those kind of things, getting ready for week one.
Probably. When you don't play somebody that's a named school, you always worry about whether your guys will really, play to the level they need to play and, not play down to a level. You've got Utah coming in. There's a number of good things about that, as you're right. They'll pay attention to Utah. They know they're a very good team. They're in a very good conference. They're well coached. Their head coach has done a great job. He's been there forever. And they're a very physical team.
Yep.
They're going to play very hard. You want to come out of the blocks right away. You want to get started right away because they got to fly all the way from Utah all the way out to that trip's not easy. It's the same thing I was talking to BJ Daniels just the other day. He was over at South Florida about BYU coming in. So it's interesting. You got two teams coming from that far away
from Utah,
from the same state,
both the state of Utah,
playing South Florida and Florida. But I told BJ, you want to come out right away at the beginning of the game. You got to come out hard. You got to come out because they've had such a long trip. It's a new environment for them. You don't want to start slow.
All right. Since we're talking about them coming to Florida, give the audience a little perspective. You've coached all over the country in all different kinds of weather environments. Talk to me about what the weather environment of them coming from Utah to the heat of Florida is going to be on that Saturday for those kids.
Well, they're not going to be used to it. And of course, I've faced BYU before and Utah. And in fact, it's interesting. When I was at Oregon, we certainly played Utah. When I was at Colorado, we played them as well.
Yeah.
But I also recruited that state. It's really, they're going to have good players. There's no question. BYU is ranked really high. Utah is. But getting to your point, the humidity, the heat, they're not going to be used to that. They can try. They can go to an indoor facility if they even have one and try to make it as hot as they can to practice. Some people do that, but it's not the same. And that's why you want to come out going right away. And also, you got to understand getting into the fourth quarter is going to be really huge when you do get to it because you're going to hope that your guys are ready for that.
This is where your depth comes into
play.
Depth
will be important, but also being ready. Have practiced in that kind of that temperature and humidity, and the players understand. They've been through being very tired at the end of practice when it's been like that. So it'll be different for those guys. It's not going to be easy for Utah or BYU to come in here.
Talk about the advantages of playing in week 0 versus week 1. You had Florida State got to play last week, kind of a tune-up game, all that kind of stuff before they head to LSU. You've got FAU played last week as well. Talk about the advantage of getting to play that week 0 week versus having to start week 1, or the disadvantage.
To me, it's a huge advantage because you get to know what you have. You're going out there as far as penalties wise. You get to get out there and just play and monitor the clock and the game management, all those type of things. You get to know the communication between your defensive staff and offensive staff, and the players get to understand communicating. All those things are really big. They go out and play, and you get to evaluate. You get to evaluate the players you have. For FAU, it was a great win for them because Charlotte's a good football team. Charlotte lost their quarterback, who is a tremendous player, and that really hurt Charlotte. But the confidence that FAU will have and Coach Taggart have in his staff is going to be enormous. The way they won the game, and they played very well on offense and defense. For Florida State, they didn't play a team. I thought the team they played was pretty well coached. And Duquesne, I just, the talent level is so different. I don't know how much that's going to help them
Right.
as they go to LSU, because it's such a different barometer there. So I think FAU will be helped a lot more than FSU.
And with the FAU situation, that was a conference game. I mean, how important to get
Right.
off to a great start, win a conference home game in week 0. That's obviously one less you got to play. And it's, something obviously both those staffs had really put the time into this offseason because it was a conference game.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, Coach Taggart, follows Lane Kiffin, who won the conference two of the 3 years.
Yep.
And he comes in, and I was with him the first year, and we had we played pretty well. We went to a bowl game, but then last year they had a losing season.
Right.
So this is a huge year for FAU. Because of who he's followed, and the expectations for FAU, and expectations should be high. There's no reason for FAU not to have a great chance to win that conference every year. I mean, they got great facilities, got great location, recruiting, all of it. And he's been there this is his 3rd year, and he's got a very good defense coordinator, good offense coordinator. So, the expectations are high, but that's big with a conference game. Yes, real big.
Speaking of expectations, obviously pressure, a little bit of pressure. Mike Norvell at Florida State, Willie down at FAU. Talk about you as a coaching staff, you as the head coach, you as a coaching staff. How do you guys, I mean, you probably don't ever openly talk about that a whole lot, but how does that disseminate through the room of the coaching staff when hey, we've struggled maybe a year that we weren't supposed to. There's expectations on us and we think we have a good football team. There's expectations. How do you handle that as a coaching staff within the room?
Well, you've got to win. I mean, it's not complicated. You and a way to win is to, like I said, have better snaps than the other team.
Yeah.
But you especially state of Florida, you can't lose. And when I was up at Florida State, I was there just as an analyst, and I was blown away by the by the whole situation. I could not understand why Florida State wasn't instilling a power.
Right.
I mean, I love that stadium. People can say what they want. I mean, I've been in trailers at South Florida. I've been in some bad situations.
Yep.
Oregon certainly had beautiful facilities, but there's no reason with the location, with the tradition, what Coach Bowden had done with the state of Florida, with everything, that Florida State shouldn't. There's no reason they shouldn't dominate. And the problem Florida State's had before was just those. You have to get a great quarterback. You got to make sure you're really good there. And FAU, same thing. I mean, there's no reason that they shouldn't win most all their games. I mean, those two programs, their location, everything is all there. You just got to work. And your whole staff's got to be in it together. They've got to, and your staff is so critical. It's so critical that you hire well, and that you hire people that don't have egos, and that people are going to work very hard and love the players and care about the players. And that's so important. And I mean, that's got to be real. And you got to have great recruiters, but expectations. And you do talk about it. We're here to win games, and you're here to coach and do a great job teaching your players. I never worried about the position coaches and talking to media or going to give talks here or there. I said the bottom line is this: you got to teach and coach your player, your position group. If you don't do that, then we got issues. All the rest of the stuff I'll handle, as a head coach. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the great things we're going to try to do on this podcast with Coach Leavitt each week is get into some of these littler things that maybe the average fan doesn't realize is going on with the coaching staff, recruiting, all these kind of things. So we're going to try to get into all these kind of things because there's all these undue pressure that we all think as fans, we all know what's going on inside of a program. We probably have no idea all the different challenges and all the different things that you guys as coaches have to deal with, whether it's within your own staff, with the players, with the university, with the community, whatever. There's so many little things that go into making a program good or mediocre or struggle. So talk about the hire at Miami with Mario Cristobal. I'm sure you probably have know Mario a little bit and probably have had some dealings with Mario. You think he's going to be a good fit, and what's going to make him successful down there? Miami's kind of gone the road of bringing their old guys home. Mark Richt, Randy Shannon, now Mario. What's going to make it different with Mario that maybe wasn't with Coach Richt and Randy Shannon?
Well, the one thing good about Mario is he has passion for that area. He grew up there. He played at Miami. And, I always felt like if you have that kind of passion for a job that you're going to put your life into it, and Mario would do that. Mario's not real great at offense as far as all that. He doesn't know defense. Kicking game is not his.
Coach. He's an
O-line
O-line
coach. And, but Mario's deal is recruiting.
Yeah. That's
what he does. And he works at it, and he's going to hire a staff that all recruits. And for Mario to be successful, he just needs to hire a great offense coordinator and get out of his way, and hire a great defense coordinator and get out of his way. Same thing with special team coordinator,
right?
And just do what Mario does, recruit. And if he does that, he'll have success. If he doesn't, probably won't. He just got to stay out of the way of those coordinators and let them do their job.
How hard is that to do as a head coach sometimes?
Well, for me, I hired offense coordinators and let them do their job, and they did a great job. I told them to protect the football and score.
That's all. Just don't turn it over and score every time.
Right. I didn't have the ego. Now I'll make that decision, as far as going forward on fourth down.
Yeah.
Or what we're going to do in the red zone, but I didn't call the plays. I wasn't doing it during the week of practice, so I wasn't going to do it in a game. Defensively, of course, I got more of a background there. But the same thing.
Did you call plays as the head coach on defense?
Well, I did the first 4 or 5 years at South Florida, but then we were trying to hold on to our program.
Right.
You got to remember, I went through 3 presidents, 3 ADs.
Right.
We didn't have a lot of money. We had to build a foundation, and I was still out marketing the program so much that Rick Kravitz was there. And then I hired Wally Burnham.
Right.
They did a great job on defense. I'll tell you what I did. I ended up running the specialty teams. The last 5 or 6 years, I handled all the specialty teams, and I really enjoyed doing that because all the other coaches didn't really want to do it that bad.
Right.
And I knew that it was so important, so I did that, and it worked out. It worked out pretty well, to be honest with you. It was good.
And that allows you to still keep in contact with both sides of the ball. Kids on both sides playing the different teams that you need them to play, and still keep those relationships where you maybe weren't as involved on the offensive side.
You're right. I mean, exactly right. And the only time the coaches were mad is because if I had punt team or whatever during practice and they weren't doing it right, I didn't worry about time periods. I did it until it got done.
Let's do it again.
And we're going to cut down on the offense and defense. So, and they weren't going to say anything because I was the head coach. So that's the way it is.
Yeah, I remember Coach Burnham. He was, I think, the linebackers coach at FSU when I was there back in the early 90s. So, yeah, good, excellent guy, great football coach.
Yeah, Wally did a great job, and Rick Kravitz did. They really did. We had some great defenses, always in the top 20 in the country.
All right, so we talked about little special teams. You talked about making some tough decisions when it's fourth down and such. Let's go to Scott Frost in Nebraska. You're up 28-17 in the third quarter in a game that's you probably should win if you really – most people think you should win the game. What causes a coach to even consider surprise onside kick, that kind of situation at that moment in that kind of game?
It's hard for me. I don't ever want to second guess a coach. Sure. I really don't, because I've been in that position where I've done different things, and after the game, if it works, it's great. If it doesn't, you wonder why you did what you did. And I know Scott will put it on himself. I know Scott. I think he's a really good coach. He did a great job at Central Florida.
Yeah.
That call, obviously, everybody's going to really question it because they're up by 11, I believe. And
yep.
And
all the momentum.
Yeah. I don't know. That's a hard one. being there and all those things, but you're certainly going to question it. I know Scott's going to probably beat himself up for it because
So,
it
Coach,
doesn't look good now.
Is that simply a formation thing where you see something with the formation of the kickoff return, or is that just we're trying to put the nail in the coffin and step on their throats here with one more big play kind of situation?
I wasn't there, so I don't know. But what I would think is they saw something that was glaring on film. The special team coordinator was probably during the game, and they saw it. It was there. Now I don't know. Sometimes it's the front guys, and they're in closer to the hash and not as close to the sideline, or there's some real distance between. Whether I didn't see the game, so I don't know if they had 5 guys up front or 4 guys up front.
Right.
But on the kickoff return team, so I'm assuming maybe they had 4 up front. They maybe thought they had it for sure. But you look at a number of years ago, Sean Payton with the Saints
in the Super Bowl, right?
Comes out in the second half, does an onside kick, gets it, and they think he's one of the greatest coaches of all time. If he doesn't get it, what happens? It's so if Nebraska would have got it, everybody would have just said, that's the greatest
that's right
call ever. So it's difficult.
They don't get it. Northwestern goes right down the field and scores. Nebraska doesn't score again, and they lose 31-28 in a game. They're up 11 points in mid-third quarter. It's just and Nebraska, obviously the audience probably knows they've lost so many close games the last couple of years with Frost and just every which way but lose. They found a way to lose games. It just puts that much more pressure on that program and Scott Frost moving forward.
Yeah, especially Scott played at Nebraska. I was coaching at Kansas State when he was there.
Yeah.
And with Bill Snyder. So it was it means a lot to Scott. That program means a lot. Sure. Just like I talked about with Mario with Miami, Scott, you would think it'd be a really good hire because of the passion and all that. But you gotta win, and it's not automatic just because you played at a school that you're gonna go in there and be successful.
Right.
You certainly have to have a staff that's as passionate about Nebraska as you are. So it's hard. Nebraska, they're all hard jobs because Nebraska's won a national championship with Tom Osborne, and
sure,
everybody's going to want to point to that, and that's the standard. And Miami has a standard of winning a lot of national championships, and that standard is the standard. When South Florida, when we were number 2 in the country, that became the standard.
Right.
The next year, when I was at South Florida, people don't realize we were 10th in the BCS.
Right.
That's not bad either. The year that they moved me on, we were 18th in the BCS. We beat Florida State and Bobby Bowden up in Tallahassee.
Right.
So
Coach, we're going to get into all these great moments that you had coaching in other weeks, but yeah, I mean the point is well taken. I mean you there's expectations everywhere, whether you're playing at Akron or whether you're at Florida State or whether you're at Ohio State. Everybody expects you guys to win games.
That was my point with Nebraska. You win the national championship. Scott comes in there. They're expecting him to get back into that level, and there's a high standard there.
All right, I want to take 2 more points and we'll get you out of here. Talk about rosters, especially training camp rosters, transfer portal. Give the audience a sense. You've lived it the last couple of years, how the transfer portal has really revolutionized player movement in college football. Just talk about how difficult it is, 1, to keep your own guys, and then 2, when there is guys available, to try to go out and get new guys to come to your program.
Well, all the dynamics have changed. 1 is you got to recruit your own players. You recruit them, you sign them. It used to be a deal where they're yours now, and they're not going to transfer out. Now you got to recruit your own players out. You recruit them, you sign them, but then you got to continue to recruit them year after year. And that changes. That's a big dynamic, Now I didn't change much with what I did at SMU or even Florida Atlantic. The guys that were playing, you would hope that they're pretty happy because they're playing and they're being successful. Now, if they're really successful, then they always want to transfer out sometimes, maybe to a Florida State or Florida, something like that.
Right.
But you've got the transfer portal, you've got to work it.
Do
You
you
got to pay
think?
attention to it. You got to see what's available,
Do you think that's a
and you
fair
got to
way
save scholarships.
Yeah, right. I mean, yeah, because you're always having to juggle the numbers. I mean, it's always a math equation about losing guys at certain positions and having to replenish and all that stuff.
Well, you want to keep 5 or 6 or 7 scholarships available, which takes away from high school players.
Right.
But you really need to. And then, how much does it take away from junior college players? To me, it's just that much more work for the staff because you've got to recruit those high school players, and you can't slow down on that. And you got to recruit the junior college players. Still, to me, there's there's an avenue to get some really good players there. But the transfer portal has really taken over as the pipeline that you probably go to pretty hard because these players have been in a 4-year university, understand they've got to have academics. They've got to, it's just a different dynamic than the junior college players. So, but the key to me is you've got to hold back scholarships and you got to plan for that.
And it's kind of like NFL free agency. You typically like the transfer guys to plug a hole. You got a hole at quarterback. You got a hole at an offensive line position where you think you're good enough to be good, but you need one more good player that's not on the roster, and that's where that transfer portal can act like an NFL free agent coming in to fill that void.
Well, you also have to be careful. And we had a number of guys that transferred in on a transfer portal that weren't that good.
Right.
And then you had other guys that are really good. You don't want to make a mistake there. Same with junior college players. You wonder why they're there. The transfer portal, you wonder first of all why they're transferring out.
Right.
And what's really sad is say you have 2,000 players or 3,000 players in transfer portal. Most of them do not find a home. Most of them move on and don't play again.
Wow.
And that is, some of these players make some really poor decisions and they lose their the chance to get their degree.
Right.
I've seen it happen a lot and I feel sorry. They don't get very good guidance. And everybody thinks they're that good. And they sometimes walk into a situation that's worse than they had before.
Right. All right. Last one, I'll get you out of here. We mentioned the transfer portal and all that. As a coach, University of South Florida had a tough quarterback decision they had to make a couple of weeks ago. They bring in Jerry Bohannon from Baylor. I think he's a 5th or might even be a 6th-year guy. They had Timmy McClain, who they played a lot last year as a freshman. They recruited they invested resources and time and energy on his recruiting him. They decide to go with Bohannon, and obviously the subsequent result is Timmy McClain transfers. How hard is that as a coach, whether you're the position coach, the OC, or the coordinator, to have to tell a kid, hey, I'm going with the 5th-year guy, knowing he's probably going to leave? I mean, knowing, he's probably going to leave, how tough is it to bring it to tell a kid who you've invested time and money and resources in as far as recruiting and traveling to see him, to bring in to utilize the guy who's been there 3 months or 6 months and knowing he's going to be, especially the quarterback of the team, he's going to kind of be the new leader?
You darn well better hope that's the right decision, because not only did Timmy McClain leave, he went to Central Florida.
Yeah.
So they may be facing him here this year, and McClain may be the starting quarterback there. You don't know.
Right.
Because Central Florida lost a quarterback. Now, I faced both Central Florida and South Florida last year. Timmy McClain, I thought was very, very good. I would have done everything possible to try not to lose him, but you can't. Coach Scott's in a tough position. It's the most important position on your team.
Yep.
He's got to win.
Yep.
In their games, the last few years, they've won one game, and I know he's a great guy. I know he's a really good coach.
Yep.
But you got to win,
right?
And you can't, and you got to make tough decisions. And I'm sure he felt like we got to rally behind. We can't go back and forth with both of them. I'm sure they talked about it in their staff rooms. Maybe let McClain have the first game.
Right.
Let him go out there against BYU.
Right.
And because the other quarterback's going to stay, he ain't leaving.
Right. Bohannon's not going.
But then again, McClain could leave after the second game or third game. So, and I think Coach Scott was just trying to, with his moral fiber and who he is. He's just trying to be fair and honest with his heart. And, felt like you want to do the right thing, but, can really come back and hurt you. The biggest thing is what happens if this quarterback from Baylor gets hurt,
Right.
or or something happens. Now who's your backup? And that backup, I know they talked about it because they knew Timmy probably would leave. How good is this backup? Because he better be darn good too.
Right.
But then on top of that, for McClain to go to Central Florida, of all places.
I know, right?
I mean, that, but, Coach Scott's he's got to just stand on what him and his staff decided and go with it. Don't look back and hope that was a great decision. And, he's come out and said in practice that this quarterback from Baylor was that much better than McClain. He obviously was, or he wouldn't have made that decision with film and everything, but you're still not in a game. Practice is practice. Games are games. You got Timmy McClain, who's started all those games. And I'm going to tell you something, as a defense coordinator, we faced him. I thought he was hard to stop. He was such a great athlete. He was inconsistent in his throwing, but he was a freshman. So I don't know. That's a tough one for Coach Scott and his staff. It really is.
No doubt. This decision could determine, I hate to say this, could determine the future. Again, if it doesn't work out, it will look real bad. If it works out and he wins a couple games that he shouldn't win, then it'd be a great decision. But again, that's why you guys are sitting in that chair, because you got to make those tough decisions. And like you said, you have to be honest with yourself and the players. And the players, they may not like it, but they'll probably respect it more if you're honest, and especially if the team knows so and so player is better than the next guy. I think that you earn their respect with the roster when you make those hard, honest decisions.
Well, I'm sure they wanted to keep McClain. I'm sure they tried hard to keep him. They didn't want to lose him, I'm sure. So that's a tough one. But they got BYU coming in, like we said. It's going to be important. South Florida needs to win that game. They play Howard the next game, which Larry Scott, who played for me, is the head coach there.
Okay.
They should win that one. But then they're on the road, Louisville, on the road, Florida. They're on the road, Houston. They're on the road, Cincinnati.
Yes.
I mean, they've got some tough games, and they do not want to lose that BYU game.
Can Florida beat Utah Saturday night in the Swamp?
Yeah, sure, certainly. That's going to be hard for Utah coming in there, and there's going to be so much hype.
Right.
With the new coach. I don't know the new coach at Florida, so I don't have a background with him, but certainly he did a good job where he was, or he wouldn't have gotten the job that he has. But Florida's Florida. You can't lose a game. I mean, that's another deal. And but I got to believe Florida will be favoring that game, and I got to believe that Florida will probably win that game. But Utah's, I don't know what Utah has this year, so I can't talk about Utah, but they're going to come in and play hard. That.
Well, the great thing is, Coach, we have somebody coming on right after you that's going to talk Utah and BYU roster. A great job in the first week, Coach. I really appreciate it. Again, fans, we're gonna get into all these kind of nuanced little things about the coaching profession, roster development, all that thing throughout the year. But we're also going to talk some X's and O's. But this is the great stuff that you're going to get from Coach Leavitt, is these behind the scenes things, that how you guys coaches think as the head coach, as position coaches, coordinators, all those kind of things. We're going to get into recruiting stuff. We're going to get into roster management, all that stuff throughout the year. So, Coach, great job on the first episode, our first segment of Coaching the Kicker, and look forward to seeing you next week.
All right, Jason. All right. We'll talk to you later.
Have a great week, Coach.
Okay. Bye-bye.